Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Alex. This is my colleague, Michaela. We are from the brand team. No, we have a couple minutes with everyone, so we're just going to kick off with some questions. We really do want this to be an informative session, so if you have a question, throw it in the chat or like raise your hand if you have your camera up, and we're happy to just answer things as we go along. But Michaela, can you tell us a little bit about your day in the life of what you do?
Yeah, so as an assistant account executive, I really serve as the support for my teams. I am the person that is looking for contacts that we should reach out to. I'm doing research to see what are the latest trends that people are talking about. What are we seeing trending on Twitter, and how can our brands capitalize on that and insert themselves into the conversation? Um, Serving as the person that will pull together reports, coverage reports to show the progress that we're making as a team that we like to hand over to the client. But overall, just kind of being the backbone for a lot of things, I would say. I do a lot with earned media, but I also do a lot with influencers and social media. So I am a big influencer person. Somehow that has been my title that I've transitioned into. But, looking at influencers and seeing, do people like their content? Do they have good engagement? Do they fit with our client? Um, is what I do. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I think I can relate to that. I started at BCW as an account coordinator, which is the position that you get right at fresh out of college. I grew with the agency and have been with the agency for 3 years, and now I'm a senior account executive. And I can totally relate with what Michaela is saying because, yes, we are support at my level now. I'm kind of leading initiatives and leading campaigns. I actually just got back last week from a trip to LA to go staff a media day with some talent that we needed on site support and making sure that they delivered the key messages that the client proposed. So our days today are different. Sometimes, again, this was pre-COVID. We did have the glitz and glamour of going to events and doing media sides or like I said, traveling. Now that that's back on the table, but it's really fun and we really do enjoy it. Question coming in is how big is your team and how do you track all the emerging trends on Twitter, for example? Michaela, how big is your
Um,
team in Austin?
I would say in Austin, there's probably like 20 people like based out of the Austin office. But I
Mhm.
think the great thing about BCW is I work with people from all different offices. So
Yeah,
I work with people in New York, Miami, Atlanta, Los Angeles. Like, you aren't just with the people in your office, you're with
hmm,
people across the agency. So um, the team, it fluctuates. Um,
for
but
sure,
I
for
think
sure.
Twitter wise, honestly, I'm a Twitter person. I love Twitter. So I'm always on social media looking, to see what's going on. Especially if one of the things that the client really wants is to be inserted into culture, then I'll try to make it my purpose to spend some time throughout the week looking to see what people are talking about and staying up to date on pop culture and things like that. And even though it may not seem like a job, it is a job, but I enjoy it. So it makes it easier when tracking.
For sure. In New York, I sit in a team of 60. I don't work with all 60 people directly because we're all divided into different clients and different teams. I say my intimate teams are maybe 10, but same as Michaela, I'm spread out across the US just because of the nature of my work. So we do a little bit of everything. And in terms of monitoring, I think the best advice I was given that I'll pass on to you is in this business, you have to know the information before your client finds out. So if you're working with a talent or an influencer and they just got caught posting something that is against guidelines or they're now in a scandal or whatever it is, we have to be the first to catch it and then be the ones to tell the client instead of the client finding it out through, let's say, the media, just because we can handle those communications a little bit better. But thank you for your question, Maria. I see you have your hand raised. I did not know that was an option here, but everyone raise your hand if you have questions.
Hi, thank you. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Of course.
But I guess my first question could be is just general tips on how you guys gauge with dealing with difficult or sensitive situations or managing like clientele relationships during those high stake times.
Yeah. Kayla, you want to take that first and then I'll add on?
Yeah. I think I'm coming off of a staffing trip where it was a high stress situation all last week. And I think the thing that made us come together as a team is over communication, not just communication, but overdoing it, not just with your team, but also with the client. Because, you know, like Alex said, you never want to be behind. You kind of want to be ahead of the client at all times. So, kind of flagging little things that may not be a big deal, but it's good to flag to begin with. That over communication really makes a difference. And especially when it is a very high stress situation, because trying to find information from all over the place when you could have just communicated it in the beginning saves you so much time and it saves you so much stress, because you know that if I'm over communicating, if my colleague is over communicating, then we know all the information possible. We're not missing out on anything. So that's a big tip that I've learned to interpret, especially over this past week.
Yeah, I agree. Communication is key. We're in the communication industry, and sometimes we struggle with communicating with our colleagues. So I would say for me personally, I do use stop. Just take a second, breathe, analyze the situation. Because again, when we're in high stakes situations, our reflexes go, go, go. How do we send this to the client? But let's take a second. Let's relax. Let's try to take a breath. Let's reread that email over. Do we have all the information to go back to the client? Can they wait an hour for us to go analyze the situation and respond back to them? So it really is about one, the situation, but also being like the awareness of the team and how we respond back and making sure that we have all of our facts straight when we're in those types of situations as well.
Thank you guys so much. I have another question, but someone
Yeah.
else can ask a question since we're only 5 minutes.
Anyone else? Any other questions coming in? Take it, Maria.
Okay, awesome. And when you guys were describing your job responsibilities or like just a day to day in your life, I heard you guys mention a lot of emphasis on research. So I would love to hear about some of you guys' duties in terms of like outreach and actual interaction within the clientele and like what do you like just more detail about what you actually have to do in terms of maintaining the client relationship.
Yeah, I mean, for Michaela, what verticals do you touch upon? Because I think that would help answer the question.
Yeah, I'm a heavy Googler. I'm on Google. I can find anything you need to know. Like I am the super lurker, as people say. But a lot of my work when it comes to research is really looking at past coverage. So if I'm trying to get a gauge of if we should reach out to this reporter, I'm looking at everything that they've written before. What's their style? What are the key themes that I can pull from their coverage? So then I can figure out if I think it would be a good fit, because you
Mm-hmm.
can pitch to all these different people, but are they the right person that's going to write the story that you need to get written? And the same with influencer. Are they going to reach the audience that I need them to get? So, in order to do that, I'm going to look through all of their pages. I'm going to look through all of their social media pages, all of their content to kind of see what they post, but also it's important with social media to look at the commentary. Because a person can have a million likes, but the comments are like, you're a horrible person, you're trash,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want that. Like, so really being cognizant of what is not also what they cover and what they post, but also what how people receive them
Mm-hmm.
is really important for research, because you could partner with, you could get a client with the influencer because they have a million followers, and then you just get a negative response. And that's not what you want, when you're looking for people to promote your brand. So,
Yeah, I work across clients in the spirits, food, beauty, verticals. So again, if I have an eyeshadow palette, I have to go see like where am I going to pitch this out to? Who's going to cover it? Because if we can't just send it out to, let's just say, like the whole list at Cosmopolitan. That doesn't, people cover all different kinds of beats. So making sure that we are doing the research. We're getting to the right person. We're going to the shopping editors. We're going to the commerce editors. There's a deal for Black Friday since that's coming up, making sure they have that info so that they share it to their audiences. And the same thing with influencers. If we're focusing on a beauty brand, make sure we're pairing up with an influencer that talks about beauty, talks about fashion, talks about the look, because it doesn't make sense if we're going with someone that is on the home decor side. So being knowledgeable and always knowing the ins and outs is very helpful.
Thank you guys so much.
Of course. Mason, I see your hand up. What's up?
So I just had a quick question about like getting into pretty much the industry of working with brands because I have experience. I'm graduating in spring, but I have experience. I'm a project manager at like a small firm, but I don't really do anything with brands. That's not really any of our clientele, but that's definitely something I'm really interested in. I was just curious to hear how you guys kind of got into that industry.
For me, I landed at BCW. Like I was fresh out of college, had all the grades, and I just didn't have a job lined up like everybody else that I knew did. Uh, Networking was key for me. I knew what I wanted to like sort of end up doing. My background was in journalism, so I kind of just networked my way through, read a couple LinkedIn posts for certain people, and just asked around, what do you do? Setting up calls like this. Tell me about what your day to day is. And that's how I landed at BCW, through like word of mouth. And I landed at brand, and I've loved it ever since. And it was a really good fit for me, especially in the work that I do in the Latin world. Michaela, what about you?
Yeah, so I didn't have like an internship my like until my last semester of college. I had no experience with working with brands either, but my thing was I wanted to learn as much as possible. So for me, I attended every single PR thing possible that I could do that had to do with brands and working with an agency because I was taught obviously traditional PR that's usually taught for in-house, but I had never learned about agency life. So I really took time to like do like the PR Council agency ready course to kind of learn more as much as I can about brands and constantly reading up and things like that. So when I got to the interview, I could speak to it in a way. And also being in our generation, we deal with brands often. So having that expertise is important as well. It's experience. You are the target that we are trying to hit majority of the time. So that's important, even if you don't have that experience.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That definitely cleared it up.
Yeah.
You got it.